Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, welcome to Week in Nintendo. Every Saturday I like to go back through the past week's biggest headlines so you can get yourself all caught up on all things Nintendo. And if you're new here and you like these weekly news rundowns, as well as the occasional game or accessory review, make sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date on everything happening with the channel. And with all that out of the way, let's go through this week's Nintendo news. Early on Monday, PlatinumGames, the development studio responsible for frenetic action titles like Astral Chain and the Bayonetta series, simply tweeted out #Platinum4 with a link to a new website, 4.platinumgames.com, leading many to speculate about what mystery announcement the new website was tied to. A little later in the day, we learned the first project of the four was a Kickstarter to fund a remaster of the Wii U title, The Wonderful 101. Several goals were listed, with the first being set at $50,000 to bring the remaster over to the Nintendo Switch, with additional stretch goals of $250,000 to bring the project to Steam, and $500,000 to bring the game over to the PS4 as well. By the end of the day Monday, the Kickstarter was supported by over 13,000 backers and had already crossed the $1 million mark. Currently, the Kickstarter sits just shy of the $1.5 million stretch goal, which will add Luca's first mission, which is listed as a brand new 2D side-scrolling adventure starring a young hero. So, congrats to PlatinumGames for an unbelievably successful Kickstarter, and I certainly underestimated the cult following The Wonderful 101 has seemed to build since its fairly quiet release on the Wii U, and this new 4 website will be an interesting thing to keep an eye on as we wait to see what other surprises PlatinumGames has in store. I guess I have to wonder if one of these will be anything at all related to Bayonetta 3, since we really haven't heard anything about the game since its initial announcement at the 2017 Game Awards. Tuesday, a user on the Resetera forums posted a screenshot of a German download card for Animal Crossing New Horizons, with what appears to be some pretty disappointing details about the way the game's save data will be handled. We had already learned that the game would not support cloud saves through the Nintendo Switch Online service, and that you would only be allowed one island per console, but according to this translated text on the back of the card, you won't even be able to transfer your local save data. This likely has to do with your island being shared across every user on that specific console, but this is still a very unfortunate detail, especially for those of us that have 2 Switches, like myself, who keep a full-size Switch permanently docked and then use a Switch Lite as their primary system for on the go. Now, this led to pretty much immediate backlash, with a change.org petition being started to make save data transfers possible, as well as Nintendo releasing a short statement later in the week that save data backups would be possible for Nintendo Switch Online users with some sort of separate functionality, and that more details would be available at a later date. But for now, this really seems like it's just for rare cases where your Switch becomes damaged or your save data gets corrupted, and Nintendo would somehow be able to restore it for you, rather than simple save data transfers between consoles. We'll just have to see how this one plays out, but for now, I'm just resigning to having 2 separate islands on my full-size Switch and my Switch Lite. Again on Tuesday, we saw an Amazon listing for the over-the-top GTA-like Saints Row 4 Re-Elected on Switch, with a release date of March 27th, and then the official trailer popping up shortly after. Now, I've never played any of the Saints Row games myself, but I have seen some mixed reactions to the announcement of 4 coming over to Switch. It seems that 4 is very similar to 3, but with the addition of Matrix-like superpower abilities that some feel make the game a bit too easy from the start, and others enjoying the amped-up insanity. The Switch port of 3 garnered some criticism for its initial poor performance, which was shown to be underperforming compared to the PS3 version, but that has since been addressed in a patch, so hopefully the Switch port of Saints Row 4 will perform a bit better out of the gate. And let me know in the comments below if you're looking forward to playing Saints Row 4 on the Switch. On Thursday, the Japanese eShop got a free demo for Persona 5 Scramble, the Phantom Strikers, and I thought I'd just take a quick moment for some housekeeping corrections and omissions here. In the last episode, I got this completely wrong, saying that Persona 5 Scramble was coming out on February 20th, and that both the Japanese eShop and the North American eShop would be getting free demos of the game. But come Thursday, I quickly realized that the demo was only available on the Japanese eShop, and the North American release date for Persona 5 Scramble is yet to be announced. So sorry about that mix-up there, but I am very much enjoying the demo. I downloaded it from the Japanese eShop, obviously. And if you don't know how to do that from a North American system, you simply need to set up a new user on your Switch with a different email address than the one tied to your primary account, and then set your location to Japan, and then open up the eShop from that user and download the game from there. You'll only be able to play the game under that alternate user, but it will still let you browse the Japanese eShop for free demos that may not be available in the States yet. And I have to say, I'm pretty surprised by the way the game plays. I was going into it mostly expecting a somewhat more in-depth Dynasty Warriors version of Persona, but there seems to be quite a lot more going on here, and it's more that the Dynasty Warriors Musou type combat is just relegated to combat itself, and that there's a whole fleshed out story and exploration. So hopefully we see a release date announcement for the North American version of Persona 5 Scramble sometime soon. Thursday, we also learned that Nintendo's production line in Japan is being affected by the recent coronavirus outbreak, with both the new Animal Crossing themed Switch model and Ring Fit Adventure experiencing production delays. Pre-orders for the Animal Crossing Switch were intended to go live on February 8th in Japan, but have been pushed back to a yet-to-be-disclosed date. We also learned that the Switch port of The Outer Worlds, the critically acclaimed first-person action RPG we saw release on PS4, Xbox One, and Windows platforms in October of last year, was also being affected, with the development studio responsible for the Switch port, Virtuous, currently being closed due to the outbreak. The game was originally slated to come to Switch on March 6th of this year, but has also been pushed back to a yet-to-be-announced date. Now, there is a little bit of a silver lining here, though, as the delay in release seems to be allowing for a physical cartridge release rather than just the empty box with a download code that we initially learned about. Now, of course, there are far larger concerns when it comes to the impact of the coronavirus, but it is interesting to see that it is even affecting our beloved video games at this point. On Friday, a Japanese survey from ATLUS popped up asking Switch owners if they'd be interested in ports from the Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, and Etrian Odyssey series, and I hope everyone who answered that survey answered with a resounding yes, because put everything on Switch. Okay, I think that does it for this week's current Nintendo news. Definitely a bit of a weird, slow week. I'm certainly hoping this is the calm before the storm, and we're about to learn a whole lot about 2020, but I'm also tired of having my expectations dashed, so we'll just get a Nintendo Direct when we get one. But before we go, it's time for 20 years ago today, where we take a look back at what was happening with Nintendo 20 years ago this week. Now, at this point in the year 2000, we are just 1 week away from a popular racing entry on the Nintendo 64, Ridge Racer 64. And I thought it would be fun to pull up a quick review from IGN's then Nintendo editor, Matt Casamassina, to hear what he had to say about the game. Having played all the way through Ridge Racer 64, I can recommend it as the most polished racer on the Nintendo 64. The game really has it all: an undeniable, incomparable sense of lightning-fast speed, 25 cars which are acquired through a fun dueling system, a top 2-player mode and a decent 4-player one, the classic Ridge Racer drifts, plus an amazing new one that enables full 360 spins and more. It's got an amazing frame rate that never hitches and an overall clean, tweaked feel and look as well. The only problem I've got is that with only 3 main tracks, including major variations of each and reverse courses too, the overall experience is decidedly short. So short, in fact, that dedicated racers will probably be able to zip through it in a day or two. However, Ridge Racer 64 is no shorter than Ridge Racer or Revolution for PlayStation, and we all love those games, so if you're an arcade racing fan, you'd be an idiot not to run out right now and slap down the $50 for Ridge Racer 64. But if you're a simulation junkie expecting weeks and weeks of extended customization options and gameplay, this isn't the game you're looking for. So there you go. I Thought it was kind of funny that review sounds quite a bit different than current IGN reviews, and I'd be curious to know in the comments below if you were a fan of Ridge Racer 64, or if you were even around for it. I actually never owned this one on the Nintendo 64, even though I was a pretty big fan of racing games, but for the most part, I really stuck with the Cruisin' and Rush games, as well as World Driver Championship, and probably my all-time favorite, Beetle Adventure Racing. And if you stuck around through all that and like what you saw, please consider liking and subscribing. And until next week, have a great weekend, play some video games, pray for a Nintendo Direct, and I'll see you next time.